Good morning, everybody, and a happy Thursday morning to you. Believe it or not, we have royal news. There's a lot going on in here. And then we have the very last episode of Meghan's show. So let's just jump in and get busy, shall we? Let's go. We're going to start off with Lady Louise. On August 30th, she participated in the National Carriage Driving Championships, and she was joined by her rumored boyfriend, Felix da Silva Clamp. They're saying that they were laughing a lot behind the scenes and walking around holding hands, and she's very sweet. He's very supportive. I love that. Next up, we have Prince Andrew. They're saying that he was looking for a way back into the royal fold for working. However, it has now come out that he stayed in contract with Jeffrey Epstein 5 years later than he previously admitted. That came out in emails. So, yeah, he's done. Next up, we have Queen Camilla. She has been very busy. She undertook 3 engagements in Cornwall on Tuesday. She started the day by touring the headquarters of the international disaster relief charity Shelter Box and learning about the latest equipment used by the organization. She has been involved in this charity almost 20 years. She became the president in 2007 and the patron in 2021. It was founded in 2000. And it has helped more than 3 million people that have been displaced by conflict, natural disasters, or the climate crisis. They've helped people in about 100 countries. I just think that's fabulous. She met staff, she met volunteers, and the young man in the green shirt is a fundraiser. His name is Thomas Burns. One of the reasons why she went there was because they were celebrating their 25th anniversary. So that's why she made the stop in that she did. After unveiling a fabulous plaque, Queen Camilla went to Newquay, I hope I'm saying that right, to look at local projects that are being supported by the Cornwall Community Foundation, of again, which she is the patron since 2005. And while she was there, she cut a cake. I remember the Queen doing this. She cut it with this huge sword. It's a Lord Lieutenant sword. I just love that. Now, the next thing that the Queen did, she got in her car and she went to another area and she got out and the public was all over the place looking to meet her. Look in the back, there are all the cell phones. Look at all the cell phones, even there, look in the back. Everybody had their hands up and they were trying to get a picture of her. Of course, people brought their animals and people really showed their spirit. I love the fact that they were waving the flags. Now, this is the interesting part. There was a little girl that was standing there. Her name is Eliana Grace Dacca. She's 11 and she owns a business. She makes homemade candles from beeswax, and she gave one to Camilla. How lovely is that? Of course, the whole family was there. I love that she's 11 and she's already an entrepreneur. So when she was done there, she went inside and she got to meet and speak with members of a local knitting club. I've always wanted to learn how to knit. Hadn't happened, but hope springs eternal. And after meeting all of these people and having some fabulous conversation, she got back in her car because she was headed to open the new operations unit of Cornwall Air Ambulance Trust headquarters and formally name the charity's new helicopter. Now, Camilla has served as patron as the Cornwall Air Ambulance since 2009. She met the staff and then she went into the new training room where she met members of the air ambulance medical team and she observed a short demonstration of their life-saving work. She also heard from the staff how tasks are managed on site, including monitoring the weather. And then after that, she headed out to the helicopter hangar. Camilla was able to meet aircrew, clinicians, and volunteers, as well as former patients treated by the air ambulance. So Camilla removed a Cornish flag from the nose cone of the helicopter, and the name of the new craft is the Duke of Cornwall. And of course, the Duchess of Cornwall, named after her title when she first became their patron. The helicopter was then officially blessed by the Bishop of St. Germans, the Right Reverend Hugh Nelson. And then after she unveiled it, the Queen addressed the room saying that as their patron, I would like to thank everybody, the pilots, the doctors, the paramedics, the volunteers, and all the people kind enough to give money to it because it's a vital part of the country. Camilla got to see the inside and how everything works before she stood around and had her picture taken with everybody else. Now, you should know this charity is tasked with over 1,000 missions every year to help critically ill or injured patients across Cornwall and the surrounding areas. Then, of course, she unveiled a plaque to officially open the new Newman wing of the aircraft area. I just think that's fabulous. Good for her. I think she's doing a great job. Now, of course, on her way out, she got some fabulous flowers, and then it was time for her to head back to the plane to take her home. All right, you guys, let's jump into the Harry Meghan debacle stuff. Now, to start with, I think mainstream media is catching up to us. I already told you days ago that Meghan was shutting down her Shop Me, that all the stuff that was on there was gone, but now mainstream media is reporting on that. I also told you days ago that the CEO of Travelist had given her notice and was stepping down. And suddenly, here comes mainstream media. It's the weirdest thing. I'm literally thinking that they get their stories from the YouTubers. That's just my personal opinion. Let's keep going. It's starting, you guys. I told you I didn't think there was a meeting scheduled. The king has his schedule for like months in advance. Now suddenly the relationship between Charles and Harry is on the brink because apparently William is telling Charles not to meet with Harry. And William is the thing that's keeping the king from finally reconciling with his other son. Because William doesn't believe that Harry should be welcomed back into the fold. And add to that the fact that the relationship between father and son is strained by their different ways of seeing the monarchy. And this is going to be the obstacle to the reconciliation. Get it? Get it? It's all going to be William's fault. It's William. William is the one who said, cut Andrew off. It's not appropriate to have him break bread with the royal family. And Charles was so, desperate to be seen as embodying the Christian spirit of forgiveness that he let Andrew back in. But William was right about Andrew, and William is right about Harry. I'm beginning to think Charles is really weak, but William is not. What did I tell you guys? They are going to start blaming William for everything. It's all coming from the Sussex camp. I'm telling you, it's disgusting. Now, since they're not going to be going back to the royal family, it's being said that if they want to maintain a dignified role outside the family, they better change their narrative. They better, speak to Elon Musk, get a rocket and go to the moon. Because if they don't stop trashing the family, there's nowhere for them to go. Now let's move on to the fact that Harry really ought to be annoyed because Meghan is totally exploiting their kids to promote the Netflix show. And in case you guys didn't notice, she told the world that she was doing all of this in a rental home because she didn't want her children to come home and find 50 people in the house, and she didn't want them to have those memories, remember? So instead, she takes the kids to the rental home. Now, for those really wondering when this was taped, take a look at the clapboard that's in Archie's hand. Look at the date on it, 2024. Also, the whole shirt thing, did you guys also notice that that's the Great Britain soccer school? She's trying to make sure that the kids have some connection to the UK in some way. It's a joke. All right, you guys, it's time to do the final episode, episode 8. Here we go. So the scene opens, Meghan's tapping the steering wheel. She's driving through the countryside going, pretty California. I'm really excited because Jose is coming. He's a very dear friend, an incredible chef, and he just makes everything fun. We both really love the spirit of feeding a lot of people in a big group. He's going to come over and we're going to create a feast to thank and celebrate the crew for their hard work this season, because the crew is the beating heart of a production. You can't do it without them. And a lot of people on our crew aren't from this neck of the woods. So I wanted to share some local delicacies, like the incredible local seafood and wine we have here. And there's a delicious wine by a small producer called Yonata, she says it. And the winery is an hour north of my house. So let's go check it out and find some beautiful bottles. And then we'll come back and get cooking with Jose. So this horrible background music is playing. She greets the guy. They go out into the grove and she goes, this is not a bad place to work. Because within each of these rows, you feel like you're finding these moments of discovery and beauty. And then when you zoom out, it's just spectacular. And he says, our crews pick it all by hand, slowly and with love. And she goes, I've never had a wine grape off the vine. So of course he pops one off and gives it to her. So the guy's talking about the temperature and the ground, and Meghan goes, well, I grow a lot of fruits and the same sort of thing where it's like really chill and overcast throughout the morning. And then the burst of sunshine where it's sugar and acid all gets trapped. And the next day you bite into it and people are like bursting with flavor. Yeah, that's nature doing that. I'm like, you're telling this guy who grows grapes how to grow grapes? What makes it so fabulous? And then he talks about the fermenting process, etc., etc. So then they go inside and she gets a handle and starts doing something with the grapes. Who the hell knows what? Next, they're walking through the casks and Meghan goes, this is my happy place. So then they walk up and there's 2 glasses and she goes, well, don't threaten me with a good time. And she does that weird seal clapping. And the guy pulls out some wine for them to try. And she acts like she's this massive wine connoisseur and she's, rolling it around in the glass and sipping it. And, oh, I just love this. It's just fabulous. And this weird music's playing in the background. All right, boom, they go back to the house. So, of course, we have the outside pictures on the house, and Meghan goes, Jose's on his way. I love Jose. Big personality, big, amazing, big-time chef, big heart, and we're going to make a feast. But first, let's make some espresso. And now she's making coffee again, and she's frothing milk, her typical stuff. She goes, I'm excited to see him. We worked together for several years now because our foundation works with World Central Kitchen a lot, which is why Jose's foundation that really shows up in areas and makes sure that people are fed and cared for, and he's constantly off the grid going where he's needed the most. And just so you know, Archwell, as far as I know, gave one donation years ago, and now they take credit for a lot of the work that Jose Andres does. So then Meghan starts unpacking these croissants that are from one of her favorite places. She's not actually making it this time, and they're stuffed. She said it's like a croissant meets a churro. They're stuffed with something. So what does she do next? She puts flowers all over everything. All right. So finally, Jose walks in. He has a big personality, but he's a consummate professional who obviously loves cooking. And so he walks in with this big wheel of cheese and this big, I guess it's a ham, like a leg of ham. And he puts it down and attaches it to this metal thing. I don't even know what that's called. He talks about the blue cheese. He made it in his mother's honor. She's no longer with them. So she goes, how's your family? How's everything going? He goes, well, my kids are grown up. They're no longer with me and I'm not handling it well. And she goes, I have to prepare myself because I'm already like, no, don't go. And she says, I'm just so glad that in everything you stay safe. I'm always like, Jose, you show up wherever anyone needs love and support and food. And I'm just like, please be safe. And he goes, well, that's why we have moments like this. It's moments like this that charge us all to just keep going. We need these moments to celebrate friends and family. So with that in mind, Meghan says, we're going to cook for the crew. We'll make a big feast with the best local seafood and wine. It's going to be amazing because I feel like staff meal, team meal, I think one of the best parts about restaurant culture. And it's one of the best meals, better than anything on the menu sometimes, because it's cooked with such heart. So in the spirit of community, let's do this. We have plenty of cheese, plenty of ham. And so Jose goes, so crew, who likes cheese? You like ham and cheese? They're all like, yeah. So he takes the knife, he starts cooking. Jose puts the ham in the holder and says it's like a space station for ham. And so now the ham is going to be perfectly steady and secure. And he says, every house should have one of these. And Meghan kind of looks over at him and goes, really? So he starts cutting the ham and explaining what you're going to do with this piece and what you're going to do with that piece. Then he starts cutting the cheese. And this is interesting. He starts putting the cheese on top of the filled croissants that Meghan brought. And then they do it on a bunch of them and they start handing them out to all of the crew that's behind the scene. And in the meantime, she goes, I used to live in Spain, but I'm embarrassed to talk Spanish in front of you because, I really lived in Argentina and I ended up with a lisp and I ended up with an accent. And once again, she's insisting that she's fluent in Spanish, which I think we all know at this point, she's not. So when they're done with that, he says, okay, here we go. And he heads on over to the refrigerator after telling people you don't have to overcomplicate a dish. Now, just remember that, okay? He says, so for the party, this is what we're going to do with our cheese. So he goes over to the refrigerator, he opens it up, and wouldn't you know, every bit of seafood that you could possibly want is sitting in this refrigerator. She also goes, we're going to taste test all the alcohol while you're cooking because I got all these wines. She opens up like 6 bottles of wine to taste test so that they can be drinking while he's doing all of this with the seafood. She goes, it's all local. So let's celebrate where we are. So he opens up the fridge and one of the first things that he pulls out are the sea urchins. Then he starts pulling out oysters. Then he starts pulling out lobster. Then he starts putting out squid. And there's all these discussions about all the different things and how he can cook them and what he's going to do with them while they're drinking. Well, then it cuts to one of the things that Meghan does. It's about the sea urchins and where they come from and what she had to do to get them. So the next thing you know, Meghan is at the marina, and when I saw her, yes, she looks like that's one of like Catherine's outfits, but I wasn't going to bother with the whole comparison thing. I think everybody knows about it. So this woman that Meghan's talking to has been doing sea urchins for 20 years. She explains how the sea urchins don't feel pain and how you open them up and what you do and the tool that you need. And then she scoops out the innards of the sea urchin raw on a spoon and hands it to Meghan, who pops it right into her mouth and eats it. Again, reminding me of Catherine when they were in the Bahamas and she ate that raw food, if you guys remember that. So they get towards the end and the woman goes, how many do you need? And she says 25 or something like that. And so they put 25 of them in a cooler and she walks off with her sea urchins. There you go. So Meghan goes back to the kitchen with her, ill-gotten goods, if you want to call them. And she's so proud to show Jose how she learned how to open them. And of course, Jose is like, I can do that better. And he sets it up and he sets up a couple of spoons of the innards for the crew to try. Here, have some spoons. They're it's fabulous. And then she goes, well, how come you picked up a lime instead of a lemon? He goes, the lime was talking to me. It said, hey, Jose, pick me up. Now, at this point, they start cooking, other things in the kitchen, and he's putting anchovies on toast, and they're just cooking different stuff. Also, when they're working on the sea urchins, she gets iodine all over her hands, and he's talking about how great it is for other things. It's just an odd conversation. So anyway, they finish up with this portion and then he pulls out the lobsters and he immediately goes to, this is how you cut up the lobsters. And I have to say, this is the one time I know that Meghan is not acting. She actually looked sick. So Jose starts cutting into the lobster and Meghan looks really sick. At one point she was talking and she had to stop talking. Her voice just kind of, she just kind of stopped. So now we all know that the only way to get Meghan Markle to stop talking is to cut a lobster in front of her. She goes, I can do fish, I can get involved, but I don't know when and she looks ill and she's turning her head around. She goes, at the end of the day, she said, it's the circle of life. She looked actually physically ill and she's not that good of an actress. All right, so finally they're done separating the heads from the bodies and they're done doing all these things with squid and I don't know what. and they decide it's time to go outside to the grill, which is on, and they start getting busy making whatever. She goes, I've never made paella. I don't know how you say it, paella. And the dictionary says anything you cook in a pan is a paella, he says. But for the people of Valencia, it's very specific. So they add everything. They add the rice and they do everything. And he makes some oysters also, which he then hands out to the people that are standing around. They're oysters from the Pacific. Put some butter, do this, do that. The fire wants to dance with you, Meghan. It's just like, oh my God. But you can tell this guy is very animated. You can also tell that he's a consummate professional and that he loves what he does. That's the only guest that I saw that I got that vibe from. So then they're setting up for the party that night, and she's bringing out all the wine, and he's bringing out the ham and the cheese, and she's lighting candles because remember, it's all about the atmosphere, and the whole time she's complaining about how cold it is. Remember, they filmed this in November. That's why it's so cold. I don't think people realize. They think that she filmed it over the summer, but no. So next, Jose pulls out something called a perron. It's traditional in Catalonia. He said it's the perfect thing to build longer tables with the people because you fill it up usually with sparkling wine and you just pour it into your mouth. You drink as much as you want and then you hand it down to the next group. Now, of course, some of it spills on him and he says, yeah, it's because of the wind. It's windy and you have to figure out which way the wind is blowing before you start drinking it. He offers it to her and she goes, no. Finally, the dinner is set. Here comes the crew. Oh, and the Fisher lady also was invited. And they come out. Meghan's pouring the wine. Everybody's milling about, getting alcohol. And they're trying that thing from Jose. You know, they're trying to pour this stuff. He's going, use gravity. Go higher, go higher. Well, then, of course, you know it was inevitable that Meghan was going to make a speech. So Meghan goes, so you guys all know for 2 seasons, it's been amazing. And I'm like, 2 seasons? This was all filmed at the same time. So basically they knew from the get-go they were going to be splitting it up. She goes, incredible crew. And I hope you guys all know that I see how hard you're all working. And Jose, we talk about our love of family meal at a restaurant and how the team makes it together, eats it together and works together. And that's what we've done. So thank you guys. We're so grateful. Cheers to you all. And she does this weird clapping thing again. And she goes, and thank you, Jose. And it ends with Jose going up to one of the cameramen going, you need to eat. Give me your camera. And then he goes around taking pictures of everybody, laughing and joking. And isn't this funny? Ha, ha, ha. And it's like, and that's how it ends. Yeah, the only thing I got from this episode was that this guy, Jose Andres, seems to be a really nice guy. He just needs to choose, better people. Thank God he's working with William on the Earthshot Prize. That's the only redeeming thing so far that I've been able to come up with. All right, you guys, we made it together all the way to episode 8. So you know what to do. Hit the like and the subscribe button and the bell for all notifications. Then go down into the description box where you'll find the link to my Twitter, my Gettr, my Rumble, my email, a link to my second channel, a link to my father's book, which is still up for sale on Amazon, and a link to my Amazon wish list, as well as a physical address. For those of you who have donated to my coffee fund, thank you so much. And as always, you guys, have a great day.